Namaskar and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonkar. The agenda of today's discussion is connected to international relations. However, we are not going to discuss any bilateral relations here. We are going to focus on recent developments that have taken place in the South Asian region. We are also going to discuss about great rivalry between USA and China. Now you're thinking, so you said the discussion is about international relations, but the image is something else. This talks about financial news and rather an old one. It's a news from the beginning of the year. In January 2023, Hindenburg Research, a financial research company from United States of America, alleged that Adani Group from India is involved in financial malfeasance. The article itself says Adani Group, how the world's third richest man is pulling the largest con in corporate history. As soon as the report was released, we all saw the repercussions of that. The shares of Adani Group, they tanked within days, within hours, I would say. Although they have now reverted back to pre-January 2023 level. But nonetheless, the report had impact on Adani Group. And a US firm had alleged that. Later on, another company based on the Hindenburg report itself, they resigned as the auditor of Adani firms, citing the same Hindenburg research. This was perhaps a low point. A US company alleging one of India's giant companies, giant firms, or giant conglomerate that they are involved in financial impropriety. But things have changed now. In a matter of few months, things have changed. That is why we are having this discussion. Recently, there has been a big news that United States of America's IDFC is going to invest in Adani's joint venture to develop Sri Lanka's West Port Terminal. And the funding is up to the tune of $553 million. A huge news. So let's talk about what has changed now. What is the United States of America's stance? How things are evolving. Although it looks like a financial news, but it also has strategic implications, which we will discuss at the end of this video lecture. All right, let's begin. As I told you, the news here is that Adani Sri Lanka Port Terminal project, it has got funding now from the US government. Earlier in January 2023, US company Hindenburg Research, it called Adani Group, or it said Adani Group is pulling the largest con in the corporate history. Now, within a matter of months, things have changed. US's International Development Finance Corporation, DFC, has now pledged $553 million worth investment in a joint venture in which majority stakes are with Adani Ports. Interesting, isn't it? Let's see why this happened. Now, when you look at Sri Lanka, now everybody is interested in Sri Lanka. You do understand that Chinese have made substantial investments in Sri Lanka. If you look at Sri Lanka, it's an island country. That means port-led development is one of their plan, is one of their ideas. And they have four major ports. They have port of Trincomalee. They have port of Hambantota, where Chinese have huge stakes. In fact, port of Hambantota has been given to the Chinese for a lease of 99 years. There is Galle port, but it's a smaller port. Sri Lanka's largest port is the port of Colombo. And if you look at the map or the diagram of Colombo port, now this was the original port or the original harbor. This is the Jaya container terminal. However, a new harbor is also being built, and this is the plan. This is the new port terminal. And if you look at the different terminals here, there is East Terminal. This is Colombo South Harbor. This is already existing harbor, and a lot of construction work, infrastructure work is going on this side. The East Terminal project, it was supposed to be given to India and Japan. However, something happened and it went to the Chinese. The South Terminal, it is being developed by the SLPA, Sri Lanka Port Authority, and a Chinese company itself. And now we are having a discussion about this West Terminal. You need to understand that the Colombo Port's East Terminal is with the Chinese, or the infrastructure is being developed by Chinese company, the South Terminal by the Chinese company, and the West Terminal, here we will see huge investment from United States of America. Now you do understand that this is like a counter for the Chinese from the US side. India is also involved, of course, here. Now, when you look at the news in 2021, initially an agreement was signed in 2019 itself between India, Japan, and Sri Lanka for development of the East Terminal. Now, this terminal was supposed to be given to India and Japan. However, things changed. Sri Lanka reneged on that agreement. After it reneging, we saw there was some sort of a compensation. And who got the agreement or who got the award for East Container Terminal? The Chinese firm got the award for the Eastern Container Terminal. It is still in development. In fact, it is going to be one of biggest Chinese investment there. But after 2021, we have seen that Sri Lanka has gone through financial crisis, and Sri Lanka is trying to reset its relations with India as well as United States of America. We have seen that recently as well. A research vessel from the Chinese Shinyan 6 was docked at Sri Lankan port. The permission was supposedly initially was asked for almost 80 days of research, but the Sri Lankan authorities denied such a long research project for the Chinese. It was at the behest of India and United States of America. Both the countries raised apprehension to the Sri Lankan authorities. After that, Sri Lanka proposed a smaller research project, also a collaborative project where Sri Lankan scientists would also be involved in the research. So it shows some sort of reset occurring between Sri Lanka, India, and Sri Lanka, United States of America. Now, after the port terminal was given to the Chinese, later on, as a compensation, the West Container Terminal, it was given to India and Japan. And from Indian side, Adani sealed the deal for development of West Container Terminal. The work is going on in full swing as of now. In fact, it's not just the Adani ports. When I say Adani, please remember, it's a joint venture. It's a joint venture. When we talk about the Colombo's West International Terminal, this is the West Terminal, which we are talking about. East Terminal with the Chinese, they are developing it. South Terminal with the Chinese and the SLP are developing it. Here, it's a joint venture. The Colombo West International Terminal Private Limited, it's a joint venture. It's a consortium between John Kells Holding, SLPA, Sri Lanka Port Authority, and Adani Ports. The Adani Ports, it holds majority stakes, 51% stakes. It is going to be a BOT project, build, operate, and transfer project spanning for 35 years. That means for 35 years, the operation would be with these holdings itself. So Adani Port is going to get a foothold for almost three and a half decades here in the WCIT. That is huge, isn't it? Now, when we look at the WCIT, why there is so much of interest here? Yes, when you ask me a question, sir, okay, this sounds like a purely financial transaction. United States of America investing almost $500 million in a port project. It looks financial because it makes financial sense. Agreed. But why invest in a project where a company from United States of America alleges that Adani Group itself is tainted? There is a question mark, isn't it? There is a strategic angle here for sure. Now, when you talk about the WCIT, the West Container International Terminal, the port of Colombo itself is quite huge. It has been operating at 90 to 95% utilization since 2021. And it is being dubbed that after completion of the WCIT, Colombo port is going to become one of the biggest ports in the world. It is going to become 12th largest port in terms of handling the containers in the world itself. So the business is going to grow. From business sense, yes, the decision is good. But when you look at the commissioning of CWIT, as and when it happens, this is going to be one of the biggest terminal or biggest harbors in Sri Lanka. Its quay length is going to be about 1,400 meters and its depth is 20 meters. That means big vessels can be docked here. In fact, if you look at its capacity, currently it is going to be one of the largest handlers with a daily capacity of 24,000 TEU. TEU is basically 20-foot equivalent units. That means a container which has 20 feet length. Such containers can be handled around 24,000 in a day. It is according to the initial reports, the WCIT yearly it can handle more than 3 million TEUs, which is huge. And the majority stakes are with the APSIR, that is the Adani Ports SEZ itself there. And when the US was asked, or when the DFC was asked that investment is happening in the WCIT and the majority stake of WCIT is with the Adani Ports Authority, right? APSEZ basically. So the reply from DFC was very interesting. The DFC actually underplayed the allegations. Like, of course, it was not an official report. It was a research by a research firm, financial research firm from United States of America, Hindenburg Research, which has quite a dubious record from before as well, right? A short seller basically. So DFC clearly said, let me just quote it verbatim, quote unquote, I don't think Adani Ports, the subsidiary, was implicated in any way in the allegations. And remember, allegations. The DFC said, United States and the DFC are committed to high standards that includes transparency and due diligence of the partners. Interesting, isn't it? So somehow things have changed in the last 9 to 10 months, and questions were raised on a company, on a conglomerate, and now US is investing heavily, $553 million on the same group. So some sort of reset is occurring. It's basically India, United States of America versus China in Sri Lanka. Now, why did I say that there is a strategic angle here? If you look at Sri Lanka, there is a competition going on. In fact, there is a theater of construction and reconstruction which is occurring here. If you look at some of the important projects, as I told you, the Hambantota port, it already belongs to the Chinese. The Mattala airport, it has been built by the Chinese. In the Colombo port also, the ECT, the East Container Terminal, and the South Terminal are being built by the Chinese firms. Apart from that, in Jaffna, we have some stakes. In Thalai Mannar and in Jaffna, India has stakes. Now in Colombo, India has stakes. Apart from that, India has also built the A9 highway. But if you look at majority of the construction projects, Chinese are involved here. Chinese are slowly and steadily gaining a foothold in Sri Lanka, or I would say they have already gained a foothold in Sri Lanka. And now India is trying to counter it, and India is partnering with the United States of America. So if you look at the South Asian region's development, it's basically India, United States of America versus China in Sri Lanka. Let's look at this closely. Whenever there is news, whenever there is update, we'll have a discussion again. All right. So very interesting development. That's the conclusion of the discussion. But before I go, there is a small notice for all the UPSC civil services aspirants. Please remember that the Diwali sale is going on. This price does not apply now till 16th of November. If you enroll for this project, if you enroll for this program, the P2I program, the prices have slashed down to 24K itself. Right? It's the most comprehensive program for UPSC civil services preparation. Do share the word. Whoever is interested to become IAS, IPS, just go through the program details, just go through the testimonials, just look at the program and enroll for it. You will surely benefit from it. So enroll. I'll see you in the class. Again, thank you for watching this video. Jai Hind.